Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Eric Coffin, HRA Advisories. It is Friday, September 22nd, 2023. I'm here in Vancouver at the Metal Investors Forum. I'm here with someone that might be familiar to some of you that have watched or attended MIFs in the past. Brandon Macdonald, he is the CEO of Fireweed Metals. Fireweed trades under the symbol FWZ on the venture and FWEDF QB, I believe it is.
Yeah.
And they've had to put it mildly, they've had a very active year, very active 12 months. Fireweed attracted some very big new investors, both some sort of fun ones, but the one that most people paid attention to and helped them get more attention was the Lundin family, which has put a significant amount of money into it. Part of what that's helped Fireweed to do is have their biggest field season ever in the Yukon at the Macmillan Pass Project. And I'm just going to get Brandon to maybe just touch on, you put a few holes out, but you really had a big drill season, so there's like a ton of news flow coming still. Can you just give us a sense of where we're at in terms of reporting and how long you think we're going to be seeing results for?
Yeah, I mean, look, as usual, the reporting lags the actual drilling. This year it's not bad. We think it's actually about, once the core leaves site, about 4-week turnaround.
Okay.
Which is manageable.
Yeah.
So we've had 5 rigs most of the summer. We're down to 4 right now. Within another 2 weeks, we'll be down to 2, and the final 2 rigs is a bit of an experiment. We're going to see how late we can keep going with them. I mean, we're not going to push till Christmas or anything, but I think that we're going to try to see if we can get to early November. So, we expect when the dust settles, we'll have drilled 60 to 65 holes.
Okay.
Depending on how late those 2 last drills make it. Now, we've released 2 batches of assays for 7 holes total.
Right.
That means that there's at least 53 holes pending, possibly 58, which put us in a good position in terms of news flow for the balance of the year.
Yeah.
And we're not going to put out 50 odd news releases, so we'll batch them. And just the nature of the project that all our holes are good and some of our holes are great.
Yeah.
So every news release should have a screamer in it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so far, you did pretty good on coming up with amazing holes in the first 2 releases.
Yeah.
Just crazy intercepts off of this property. And going forward, I mean, you originally picked up Tom Jason, Boundaries come in later, and I think Boundaries getting most of the attention this year, right? Or is it?
Yeah, I think it's gotten the lion's share of the drilling, but we actually, the 2 final drills will be at Tom and Jason, and we've done significant drilling, more so at Tom this year and recent years. But I, always encourage people, certainly recently, that Boundary is certainly brand new and it's shining. It's going to produce a lot of tonnage, and I think it's producing grade intervals, that we have not seen the likes of at Tom and Jason, or certainly Jason at least. Tom can definitely, put some real screamers out too. But I encourage people not to sleep on Tom and Jason. There's significant tonnage left there, and the part of the area we're drilling this year at Jason South, we've known that there's these step outs there that didn't have enough intersections to wrap a resource around them. So we know we're going to hit something there. We know it at Tom. There was, what we call, Tom South, I think we're referring to it now, that there was a hole from 1991 that was 14 meters of 14% zinc within a broader interval, and pretty sure there's more there. We think that may actually be connected to Tom Southeast, which would make that whole area a pretty significant amount of tonnage. So, these are all areas that we're not going to get to all of them this year, right? And this was the interesting choice of, even when we're doing 3 times the drilling this year that we've done any other year, we still had what I referred to as exploration triage, which deciding which targets live or die, because there's no way we have the bandwidth to attack all the targets that are really merit worthy of drilling on the project.
Right. So
it's a good problem to have.
It's a great problem to have. And the other project, which is adjacent, that I want to be sure we touch on, because I think it's a big deal, extremely valuable. You guys got a great deal when you picked it up, and that, of course, is Mac Tung, any sort of Mac Pass.
Yeah.
Can you give people like a thumbnail on that one? It's a great tungsten deposit.
Yeah, I would argue pretty safely that it's the best tungsten deposit outside of China. And this is a combination of grade and scale, and it's large enough that it could produce North American demand, meet all of North American demand for tungsten for like 40 plus years, right? And there's still significant exploration upside there, but like to what end are we going to keep exploring for years 50, 60, 70 now?
Yeah.
No, right? So it's a truly amazing project, a real outlier, like living all by itself, in the kind of peer chart. And it puts us in a kind of unique position, because when we initially started the conversation with the government on this project, the critical minerals was a thing, but it's not like we think about it now. Like, it's just 2 years later. But actually, if you look at a good benchmark of this, you can go to like Google Trends and you can see the popularity of search terms.
Yeah.
The inflection point for critical metals or critical minerals was late 2021, which is just after we started that discussion. So it ended up being very fortuitous for us. And then, of course, since we made the acquisition, the US DoD has declared that they're cutting off defense contractors from China or Russia origin tungsten, among other metals. They've cited tungsten, magnesium, and graphite as their three biggest, defense supply chain concerns. So suddenly we've got this project that before was like, an interesting project and kind of a niche metal, to now an asset that's, I would say, arguably strategic and for security of the West. And it's not just a defense thing. Defense is 15% of the use of tungsten, which is big, but there's just no manufacturing. You do not build cars. You do not build anything out of metal unless you have tooling steel, and that's tungsten, right? So it's we feel like we're in a pretty good position. It's been worth the price of admission owning it, just for the leverage it's given us in conversations with the government.
Right.
But we're serious about building it. It's been through the environmental assessment. It's had a positive recommendation to proceed to final licensing. We got a bit of a baseline gap to plug. We got to redo the feasibility study. But this could be something we could start construction in 3 or 4 years.
Okay, and on that note, what's sort of the big picture strategic vision for Fireweed? Where do you see things going from here moving forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what is most likely versus how we proceed. I think M&A is likely. I don't think that's a scenario that's not a strategy. M&A is not a strategy. You follow a strategy, and that the success in that strategy leads to M&A, or maybe failure in that strategy leads to opportunistic M&A. But we recognize that Mac Tung is very buildable, that it's strategic, that the governments want to see us build, and we'll put their weight behind it. So that's what we're gonna do. And we recognize Mac Pass is a generational discovery in zinc. That it's one of the probably going to be one of the world's great zinc districts. So we're continuing to explore it, de-risk it. We've commenced the baseline for that, but we're not like rushing to build that yet, because I don't think we've really framed the opportunity yet. So I think there's a lot of ways to proceed here. We're lucky that with the backing of the Lundins, that as a venture-funded company, you need money, but our last financing was at market with no warrants. I know when I want money next, I can get it, and that doesn't mean we don't have the pricing risk associated with the vagaries of the market, but we certainly don't have financing risk in terms of our ability to get financing. So I think whatever strategy we choose, we're going to be able to execute on.
Yeah, that's having that financing edge is a pretty big deal.
Oh, now it is,
when you're an exploration and development level company. I think that covers it. Fireweed Metals, FW said on the venture, FWEDF, I think, on the QB. Great company, very strong management team. Brandon's been doing a great job. He's also been bringing other people in through the past year, like they're filling in all the slots that you need to get something you know, through development, through permitting, kind of over the finish line. But, you know, it's a very overused term that, you know, people splash around all the time. But I think it's reasonable to say Fireweed has not one, but two world-class projects. One of them zinc-lead, the other one tungsten, literally cheek by jowl next to each other in the Yukon. Great story. Brandon's been doing a great job this year. Fireweed's probably got some of the happier shareholders in the market that by and large just don't have a lot of happy shareholders.
There's
this
not
year.
a lot, right?
No.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming by, Brandon.
Thanks.